What's up, you guys? It's Ron here with the latest news on your $2,000 stimulus check update, your fourth stimulus check update, as well as recurring stimulus check update. We have recent news that the Democrats are seeing that their $3.5 trillion spending bill, or their spending goal for this bill, is actually slipping away. This could mean that the price tag for the bill will have to be lower than $3.5 trillion, or at least so it seems. New tax breaks. House Democrats have recently unveiled plans for a new array of tax incentives, which could go up to $1.2 trillion. Now, according to a recent report, gold prices have subdued, while the dollar, on the other hand, stood firm. Now, what exactly does this mean? We'll be discussing all of these and more in our video today, so definitely stick around till the end. But first, I want to say welcome back to all my subscribers. I hope that you guys are doing very well today, and I really appreciate you guys. We cover all things personal finance, cryptocurrencies, stock market updates, personal finance, and of course stimulus package updates, as well as stimulus check updates. So if you haven't already, join the family, hit the subscribe button, and let's go ahead and jump into this. First up, here's your daily update on the reconciliation bill, aka the stimulus bill that we're hoping that Congress will actually go ahead and tuck a fourth stimulus check into. Now, Congress is currently working on it right now. Now, we have recent news that the Democrats are still seeing that their $3.5 trillion spending goal for this bill is actually slipping away. Now, this could mean that the price for the bill would actually possibly be lower than the $3.5 trillion that Bernie Sanders was pretty much saying that is his line in the sand. But is this really going to be the case? Let's get into the details here. It says here that there is a growing realization among Democrats that their plans for a $3.5 trillion spending package to reshape the nation's social safety net and to tackle climate change will have to be slimmed down because of the anxious centrists worried about the 2022 midterms. Of course, you guys know that the 2022 midterm are coming up. A lot is at stake here for the Democrats, and a lot to gain, or a lot to be gained, for the Republicans. So it says here that the Democrats, by and large, feel confident that President Biden's ambitious human infrastructure agenda has strong public support, and that a majority of Americans favor raising taxes on corporations and on the wealthy to help pay for it. But there's also a recognition that moderate Democrats in swing states and districts need to show that they're reshaping their emergent reconciliation package. Now, it's not looking all that good right now for President Biden and the progressives. Now, since the beginning of the talks for the stimulus bill, the centrists have been the group of people within their party that were against the progressives' agenda. And they're affecting the flow of things now. And the progressives might not get what they want, which is, of course, the $3.5 trillion budget for this bill. Now, President Biden's $3.5 trillion budget goal is not just a magic number that they came up with out of nowhere. The budget aims to fund many programs, and they actually have plans on how to pay for them. Now, one of the creative plans for financing the bill is to increase the taxes on large corporations and on rich. Now, this is a move that many Democrats support, but heavily frowned on by Republicans. President Biden's also calling for this. Now, if they get this done, they could fund a considerable portion of their proposed $3.5 trillion budget and execute the many programs that they're planning. Now, the programs that the Democrats want to implement are in the basic sense for the people. That's why they're calling it the stimulus for the people, essentially, or social infrastructure. Now, with that being said, this is actually one of the most extensive packages in U.S. history, sitting at $3.5 trillion if they can get it done at that price. Now, some of the programs that they want to include free community college, universal pre-K, Medicare expansion, an extension of the child care tax credits, you've got Social Security benefits, and a whole lot more. Now, these are the things that the people need, and the Democrats see that. How about a fourth stimulus check in there, though? We already have at least 3 proposals for a fourth stimulus check, if not recurring stimulus checks, sitting on the table right now. Now, I know that this is what we've all been waiting for at this point. Every day we're waiting for updates on this. Now, guys, the situation is still the same. The chances of getting a fourth stimulus check is definitely not zero, which is a very good thing. It's there. What remains to be seen, though, is whether or not Congress will include this in the stimulus bill or not. Like I said, at least 3 proposals for stimulus checks and recurring monthly stimulus check payments is on the table, so that's very, very, very good. But of course, we'll just have to wait and see until they actually reveal the draft on their target date for discussions, which is actually going to be pretty soon. I wouldn't get my hopes up just yet, though. However, there have been many calls from many Democrats for a fourth stimulus check and monthly recurring stimulus check payments, so, that is definitely something. But let's continue. It says here that most times when you face these situations, there have to be some changes made in order to get the votes. Especially here in the Senate chamber, it's tied and only the vice president can break the tie. This comes according to former Senator Kent Conrad, who presided over the budget reconciliation process in 2009 and 2010 when Democrats passed sweeping healthcare reform legislation. It says here, you probably will have to shave this back some, he said of the $3.5 trillion proposal outlined in the budget resolutions passed earlier this summer. Now remember, they're passing the stimulus bill through the reconciliation process where no Republicans can interfere with them. Everything is solely up to the Democrats up to this point. And this is why every single vote counts. And they cannot afford to lose anyone on this one. Not from a Democratic standpoint, of course. Now, this is also why the opposition from centrists is a big deal, since the progressives, they need them to be able to help pass this bill. The $3.5 trillion stimulus package proposal really does seem to be standing on shaky grounds right now. So let's go back here. It says here, I suspect there are going to have to be some changes in order to get the votes to pass it. He said Biden has himself said that these things should be paid for. He said that very clearly, and he said it repeatedly. The closer you can get to actually paying for it, the better the chances you have for getting the votes. Having clear plans on the pay-fors would likely convince some opposition to change their minds and support the bill. However, I don't think that it's enough to persuade notable centrists like Joe Manchin. Now, two of the toughest Democratic votes to corral in the Senate belong to Senators Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema, who have both said in recent weeks that they will not support a $3.5 trillion stimulus package. Moderate Democrats in the House, such as Stephanie Murphy of Florida, are also threatening to vote no. Now, this was actually a concern of mine because I thought to myself, hey, if Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema might not be on board with this whole thing, all their votes were needed, right? But what's to stop other Democrats from saying, hey, maybe I don't want to vote for this thing because I want to get something else done, You never know. You really never know. But there he goes again. His name has been around for a long time now, and he's been given the spotlight by the media. Well, of course he's saying intriguing stuff, and the media loves that. Joe Manchin has always been kind of a Dino, a Democrat name only, so I'm kind of curious to see how things would go down once the Democrats get on to finalizing the bill. But let's watch this interview with Joe Manchin to get more insight into his opposition for the $3.5 trillion stimulus bill.
We don't have an urgency. Don't you think we ought to debate a little bit more, talk about it, and see what we've got out there?
So you're not against this? You could support this $3.5 trillion plan?
No, I cannot support $3.5 trillion.
Okay, so that is
okay,
all right, now we're getting to Brad. It is not a time issue. It really is a cost issue.
We got 5.4 out right now.
Okay.
That's a 3.5 they want to spend.
Over 8 or 10 years, depending on what.
3.5, but still, yeah, it's going to be based. It's going to be a lot more than 3.5 over 8 or 10 years because it'll continue. All those programs will never come off. They've only been scored out that far. Mm-hmm. But with that being said, that's a social reform. I'm just saying that we should be looking at everything, and we're not. And that we don't have the need to rush into this and get it done within 1 week because there's some deadline we're meeting, or someone's going to fall through the cracks. We've got child nutrition, all the things I want to make sure that children are getting taken care of, that people are basically having an opportunity to go back to work. We have 11 million jobs that we haven't filled, 8 million people still unemployed. Something's not matching up there. And with that being said, we have people talking all the time that we can't find help, or there's a reason for that. We haven't found out.
So what would this bill look like if you were writing it from scratch?
Well, if I was writing it from scratch, I'd be looking at, first of all, adjusting the tax code. I've always said that. I said basically the 2017 tax code was weighted unfairly to the wealthy. We need to change that. That's why I agreed to go to reconciliation. But I'm not going to go to a situation I'm going to shoot myself in the foot and not be competitive globally. I think the corporations should be paying. There shouldn't be anyone escaping not paying their fair share. I think the IRS should be able to do its job. All of those things. But when you do all that, Chuck, realistically and honestly, what does that spin off without going in debt?
On CNN's State of the Union, Manchin told host Dana Bash that he didn't support the timeline of voting on the measure this week, so the House could pass it by September 27th. There's no way we can get this done by the 27th if we do our job, he said. Manchin added that Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer of New York will not have my vote, and Chuck knows that. Now, Joe Manchin really made himself clear in that video and his following statements. In his opinion, they don't have to rush this bill now. He also thinks that there are many jobs available out there to fill. It really does look like he's not in support of the majority of this bill. Now, if things go his way, then he'll probably take as much time as he wants and focus less on the programs that progressives are calling for. But what do you guys think about this one? If Joe Manchin would suddenly be the leader of this bill, would we be hearing about the same programs that Senator Bernie Sanders and others are calling for? Drop me a comment down below. Let's discuss this one. Meanwhile, Senator Bernie Sanders did not stay quiet as he had a few things to say about Joe Manchin's opposition.
First, your colleague, Joe Manchin, just explicitly told me repeatedly he will not support your $3.5 trillion reconciliation bill. He wants to see something more in the ballpark of $1.5 trillion. Is that acceptable to you?
No, it is absolutely not acceptable to me. I don't think it's acceptable to the president, to the American people, or to the overwhelming majority of the people in the Democratic caucus. Look, we worked with Senator Manchin to pass the $1.9 trillion American Rescue Plan, which was enormously consequential and helpful to working class families in getting us out of the economic disaster that befell us as a result of. I believe we're going to all sit down and work together and come up with a $3.5 trillion reconciliation bill, which deals with the enormously unmet needs of working families. We've got to lower the cost of prescription drugs for people. We've got to expand Medicare to include dental, hearing aids, and eyeglasses. we have to maintain the $300 direct payment we're giving to working parents, which have lowered childhood poverty in America by 50%. And I'll tell you what else we have got to do. The scientists will tell us that we got a few years left before there will be irreversible harm to our planet if we do not address climate change. And the truth of the matter is, Dana, as you may know, many of us made a major compromise in going from the $6 trillion bill that we wanted, supported by the overwhelming majority of Democrats, down to 3.5. And the last point that I would make on this, I know that Senator Manchin worked very hard on what's called a bipartisan infrastructure bill, $550 billion of new money to rebuild our roads and our bridges. What we have worked on is working both of those bills in tandem. They go together. And it would be a really sad state of affairs for the American people, for Congress, if both of those bills went down.
Do you think that's possible, that that could happen right now?
Yeah, I don't think it will happen. I mean, I think, look, this is a very difficult issue. What we are trying to do in this bill is more significant for working families than any bill probably since FDR and the New Deal. I mean, we're talking about expanding Medicare. We're talking about making sure that no working family in America pays more than 7% of their income for childcare, making pre-K universal and free, putting a huge amount of money into affordable housing, creating millions of good-paying jobs, home health care, you name it. This is a consequential bill. It is hard to put a bill like this together. At the end of the day, I believe we will.
Okay, and I want to ask you about more of the substance in a second, but the other thing that Senator Manchin is opposed to is the timeline. Chuck Schumer wants to have a draft of this reconciliation bill done by Wednesday. The House Speaker committed to holding a vote by September 27th. He said that's not going to happen, full stop. Are you willing to give it more time?
Well, I mean, a few days here or there, it doesn't matter. But there is a sense of urgency. And the sense of urgency is that we live in a country today where the wealthiest people and the largest corporations are doing phenomenally well, while working class people are struggling all over this country in terms of health care. You know, you got 90 million people uninsured or underinsured. People can't afford to pay prescription drugs, can't afford to send their kids to college. Kids are leaving school deeply in debt. You got almost 600,000 people in America who are homeless today. And you got the climate crisis. You know, Oregon is burning, California is burning, Siberia is burning. You know, people are dying in floods in New York City, unprecedented rainfall. There is a sense of urgency, which I think the American people understand. And what they want is finally, maybe, just maybe, the Congress of the United States will act for them and not just for the wealthy campaign contributors and the rich and the powerful, who, by the way, are pouring huge amounts of money. The drug companies, the insurance companies, fossil fuel industry, huge amounts of money in trying to defeat us.
That was quite a long video, but it was an insightful interview with Senator Bernie Sanders. We can definitely see both sides of the coin here. Bernie Sanders leads a sense of urgency here, while Joe Manchin wants to slow things down. Sanders said multiple times that the $3.5 trillion budget proposal is already his compromise, and he won't be willing to go any lower. This will make things tricky for the Democrats since Manchin has quite an influence on them already at this point. But what do you guys think about Bernie Sanders' take here? He's been the leader of this bill, and it really makes sense why he's saying that Manchin's remarks are unacceptable. Can they get this done at $3.5 trillion? Remember, the bigger the budget they have, the more chances of receiving a fourth stimulus check. They need the budget to make it happen. Simple as that. But I'd love to hear from you guys. Let me know your thoughts on this one in the comments below. Up next, let's talk about the tax breaks and how they could possibly include them in the $3.5 trillion stimulus bill. Now keep in mind, the whole stimulus, like every one of the stimulus checks that we have received so far, is a result of the tax breaks. So tax breaks can actually be a very good thing for Americans. They can result in additional payments for us. House Democrats have recently unveiled plans for a new array of tax incentives, which could go up to $1.2 trillion. But what could this be about? Let's see here. It says here, House Democrats are proposing $1.2 trillion in new tax breaks for universities, caring for the elderly, buying electric bicycles, and a host of other incentives as part of the far-reaching spending package they are currently assembling. Under a 645-page bill released late Friday night, Democrats would also create new tax breaks for buying electric cars and trucks trucks, make Pell education grants completely tax-free, offer new incentives to rehab homes in poor neighborhoods, and provide a new tax subsidy for energy production. House Democrats seem to be very busy making up proposals to help more people through tax breaks. The people they want to help are numerous, and this is a good sign. Tax breaks for caring for the elderly stand out in particular for me. Now, with things like this, we could actually achieve better healthcare for the elderly. Combine that with Medicare expansion, and we get a massive improvement on our healthcare system, which is a win-win situation for everyone. It says here, as expected, their plan also calls for extending their signature monthly child tax credit payment program and making permanent other subsidies aimed mostly at low-income people. The package released Friday didn't take on some other major questions that could bedevil Democrats, including how they intend to address a cap on state and local deductions, an issue that has deeply divided lawmakers, with some demanding its repeal and others blanching at the idea of reducing taxes on the wealthy. Our proposals allow us to both address our perilous changing climate and create new, good jobs, all while strengthening the economy and reinvigorating local communities. This comes according to House Ways and Means Committee Chair Richard Neal of Massachusetts. Now, this proposal and the stimulus bill as a whole will definitely change and improve different aspects of our country. That's the goal after all. The critical part here is, when will they actually get this done? Proposals will in fact remain proposals until they finish negotiations. So we'll just have to wait and see on that. Now, an extension of the child tax credits has always been one of the top priorities of the Democrats. Since child tax credits have been proven to reduce child poverty by a significant amount, there's no wonder why. The final date on the exact date on their proposed extension is still up for discussion, but this is a good sign of things to come. This is likely one of the essentials that they will have to pass with top priority in the bill. It's also a reminder that while much of the focus has been on Democrats' plan to raise taxes on corporations and to raise taxes on the rich, they're cutting taxes on many others as well. Yes, that's exactly it though. Democrats want tax hikes on the wealthy while proposing tax breaks on the others. But what do you guys think about this though? Is this actually a fair proposal? It looks like the stimulus bill would actually include this in some form or another, but things are not yet finalized. Hit me up in the comments down below. I'd love to hear from you guys. Last but not least, here's a very quick update on gold related news. You might want to hear this one. According to this report by CNBC, gold prices have subdued while the dollar on the other hand stood firm. But what exactly does this mean? Let's see here. It says here gold prices were subdued on Monday as the dollar held firm, while cautious investors awaited readings on the U.S. consumer price that is due this week that could be crucial for the Federal Reserve's decision on when to exit its super supportive policy. Gold prices change every single day, and really that's normal. Now, while a change downward could mean bad for now, it could also mean a way to get it now and invest low. But let's look at the stats here. It says here that spot gold was flat at $1,787.40 per ounce after having recorded a weekly decline of 2.1%. Gold futures fell 0.3% to $1,786 an ounce. The dollar index slightly strengthened in Asian trade, having delivered a 0.6% weekly gain, making gold more expensive for holders of other currencies. Gold prices experienced a price decline for both spot gold and gold futures. Meanwhile, the dollar went through a slight gain. But what does this mean? This is just how the market works. Prices change every single day. A silver lining in the slight decline of gold is that it could be a good time to invest in it. Actually, with the rising inflation, the dollar is expected to possibly decline soon. So is it time to invest in gold now to ensure that you keep yourself and your family secure? What do you guys think about this though? Have you looked into gold as an investment? Let me know your thoughts on gold versus the dollar in the comments down below. So anyway, guys, that's all for the news on your fourth stimulus check update. Recurring stimulus check updates. Democrats seeing their $3.5 trillion spending goal for this bill slipping away. House Democrats also unveiling new plans for tax incentives and the latest updates on gold. But what do you guys think about everything we covered today? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. I really do hope that you guys appreciated everything we covered today. And if you haven't already, do like this video. I really appreciate the support. And also join the family. Subscribe to the channel. Hit the notification bell that we're notified as soon as I release new videos and updates. And I'll see you guys on the next one. Take care and be safe. 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 Next one. Take care.